through the count at the T-minus 17-second mark, we'll get a release of the guidance system in the instrument unit. Also handled by the automatic sequencer will be...
And hello again, this is Philip at thebest3d.com. I'm going to look at the Lightspeed, which is a free little screensaver developed by Richard Walton. You can see that at walton.net. And there's a couple of other really great little programs that might also be great additions to some of the stuff that you use or need. In particular the Earthquake 3D, if you are in an earthquake-prone region, or if you just like to be informed of recent earthquake activities. Lightspeed screensaver, let's have a look at that though. So Lightspeed is something that can enhance your graphics quite a bit here with with a collection of nice presets, some of them with images, some of them with flying through particle clouds. And I thought that I would just install that and show you how you can take that even further. Who knows, maybe someday we'll be seeing a plugin with Dogwaffle or not. I mean, the idea is to just see what can you do even with this. This is great. You can actually buy, you can license a pro version, I guess, the AVI edition, which will allow you to render it out to AVI, and so from there you can take it into Dogwaffle through the AVI import. Now, the poor man's alternative of that, of course, is to capture it from. All right, so let's take a look at how to work with this. I've installed the screensaver, and make sure that you select Lightspeed. And that's the one here. So the moment you click on settings, it will launch it. It will also start some audio, so you may want to reduce the volume. It's basically the engines of some sort of a rocket that's taking you through space. And you have a great number of presets. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll make this fill out the screen as much as possible, so we can really enjoy this and have a look at some of those different presets. So this one here, absolutely fabulous. Makes you feel like we're flying into the galaxy. We're starting to get past the original set of stars. Really just a lot of things. Some of it we can also do in Dogwaffle already, but there's definitely a lot of other presets there to enjoy and discover. And if you do a lot of animation, perhaps science fiction or galaxy space related, you know, something like this could be very useful additional video footage to use. And so I want to give you some ideas on how you could possibly use that or capture that. First of all, buy the full licensed version. It's not horrendously expensive, and it will give you the option to save to AVI. Whereas here I'm essentially going to capture that from screen. And I'm capturing it only at 15 frames a second. Now, I may have a system fast enough to capture it faster, but that's where one of the problems may occur if you have a slow system and you're not going to be able to necessarily capture at the 30 frames a second target. Alright, so let's see this. I'm going to go to the second one here. And what I'd like to do is focus on turning this into a better clip that's smoother and slower, but without the twinkling or roping or flickering that might appear if you're doing something like frame interpolation. So let me make sure we have it full screen or big enough to not see the border on the capture. There you go. And then we'll record for about 10 seconds without the mouse on top, without the cursor. And we'll record this, and we'll see where we can take this. Alright, so that's done. I'm going to now switch over to the program to convert that to an AVI. Alright, let's try this one. This one is called Video Converter Ultimate by Wondershare. Now, I don't have the license yet for it, so it's going to put a bookmark on it somewhere in the middle, I think. So, but let's see what we can do with that. I'm going to add a file with that. Let's go to the expression folder under my documents. Let's find expression, That was the output of the encoder. And you know what? I could actually do that coding directly in Expression. Silly me. You know, let's finish this one here, and then we'll go back to Expression and do it there. So here we have the output, and I think there was today, and there you go. Let's grab that, open that. And so one thing I did like about this at first look, I haven't really played with this one a whole lot yet, but one thing I do like about it is you can go and edit that. And hello again, so it goes in place, but as far as I know, you can also set some in markers and stuff. Maybe not here in this one. There, crop. Okay, so you can crop, you can watermark, subtitle, put some effects on there, and that's pretty darn good for a tool that really just wants to convert it. So it goes a bit beyond the basic quick conversion tool, and you can go and say, okay, I want to really just capture this particular part towards the end here where I had this animation going, right, something like this, and I want to capture perhaps about 10 seconds worth of footage from that. That should do it. Alright, so that will allow me to crop it to that, to trim it really. Alright, that's what that is. Prediction module. Yep, now I have just a short section here. And in the motion prediction module, we'll make it slower and see how we can make it really smooth and high quality. Okay, so let's convert that. Let's convert that to, now what do we convert it to? That's another thing I really like about this program, is that it has very quick, easy selection of so many different presets. Got the graphics, you know, so you recognize your phone, you recognize your other devices, web formats, HD, 3D formats. It's got everything. I mean, this is just really amazing. So I'm gonna go with AVI here. What you do need to do though is make sure it's a format, a codec that we will be able to save or use in Dogwaffle. And I don't know that I had success so far with MS-MPEG v3. I may have an encoder here, but I may not have the decoder for it. So gotta be careful with that. What I'm gonna do is, let's see, small fit. What encoder might be useful here? XVID, I know that I can do in Dogwaffle, so let's use that. Let's use XVID. Frame rate, you know, it's 15 frames per second initial capture. I'm not going to mess with that yet. I'm going to want to change that later on, but let's get it at fairly high quality, so 6 or 8,000 kilobit per second is adequate. We don't need the audio. I don't know that I have an option to disable it here, so we'll just leave it like that, and we'll cut it off when we actually go. Let's go standard to go a little bit faster, and quality it's still at 1280 by 720. Okay, that, and let's go. So I'm going to convert that now, and of course we don't want to register at this point. I'm going to see if I can get the NFR license to do some more demos on this, because this is really a nice encoding tool. Very natural, very easy, great user interface, no learning time basically. I mean, you see I could just navigate through that. Alright, so we're done with that. Now I did indicate earlier that I was going to do this also with Expression Encoder. This is Expression Encoder 4, and you can download that for free now from Microsoft. Don't go to other websites, go to Microsoft for that. You don't want to patch some virus or anything else with it. So grab the original, it's free, and you can now launch it to import some of those captures we did. I would guess it's probably, you know what, I'm not sure which one it is. The previewer may not show us. Oh, this one is probably it. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah, so I figured it's this one here. Let's try that. Let's play it, verify. And hello again. Yeah, I think that's the one, right? We still have. Definitely. Yeah. Alright, so what I'll do again is I'll identify the section of the clip that I want. And let's play it. There we go. Found something around here. Let's set our in marker. There's got to be a place to trim there. Where do we do that? Zoom in here a little bit. Maybe we'll start a bit earlier. Zoom out. Alright, Alright, so we'll have an in marker we need to set. How do we set that? It's gotta be an A, B. Insert the media, that's not it. Okay, help me out here. We need to trim, we need to cut. Yeah, you know what? That would have been a nice shortcut button if we had it there somewhere. Timeline, tools, add edit, tools. You know, how natural would that be if we could just do a trim right at that point? But here, insert an edit at the playhead. Okay, let's do an edit here. That's an edit. There you go. Okay. It's there, and then let's go another one and insert another edit. Wait, do we have other video here? And in the motion predict. Alright, so right here we'll set another edit. Insert an edit at the playhead. So we have two edits now. Yeah, okay, so you should be able to grab this section and delete that. There, remove the clip under the playhead. There you go. Same thing for the preceding part here, right? If we zoom out, we can see we have a little clip here and we have this part. Okay, so that's how that works. We'll delete this one, and now we have just this one short segment. That's all we wanted. That's it. Alright, so with that, what I want, let's go and encode that. Right? So that encoding is going to go pretty quickly, and we could make that do a, I don't know if we can make that an AVI inside of this program. So that would be one to try. Let's see, encoding quality, devices. Okay, so here's a choice. Yeah, I see you only have a few limited formats, WMV and IIS. So this one's not intended for general encoding. There's also encoding for Silverlight. It's really intended for the Silverlight, the WMV, and the Windows Internet Streaming Service, so IIS. So that's not going to be a solution to convert it to AVI. You can cut with that, and then you can put it perhaps in Media Espresso or something else. So let's try that. Okay, so we are back in Media Espresso, which is by Cyberlink, and this time I'm going to find me that WMV that we created earlier, and let me see if we can find that. Would that be this one? Nope. So where did I save that? Could be this one. Nope, no WMV is there. Could it be this one? Yep, there you go. I think that's the one. Alright, so let's capture this one, and it's a short one. It's only about 10 seconds short, I would say. We can probably double click it to view it right here. Double check that. So, no, yep, that's the one. It's just fabulous. And what I want to do is perhaps take that into the motion. So it's short enough that we can let's see, escape out of that. There you go. Go back to the encoder. This is a Media Espresso by Cyberlink, and it's one of those tools that I do quite often use to quickly convert something from one format to another, including the AVI format when I need it. And so let's go play that. Let's say convert. And then now you can see most of the time I have a couple of presets I built for myself. Most of the time I'll convert it to WMV at 8 megabit per second, 1280 by 720. This one here, though, I'm going to go over the daily dose, probably something like that. Maybe it's an MP4, I don't know. Yeah, it's an MP4 with H.264. But this time I'm going to go with the 360p on AVI. Now, why not 720? Higher definition, since that's what I originally captured. Well, I think this program does not give you AVI at 720. Now, AVI is turning out to be a little bit of a dying format, an old format, so not a whole lot of enthusiasm for AVI anymore. And when you select AVI, you can see some of the presets, but it does not include anything high resolution. So what I can do, though, is say, okay, let's keep the aspect ratio 640 by 360, and then just go to really high bitrate. Well, it's not really high either. 4 megabit per second will be okay, though. And I'm going to go this time at 15 frames per second, since that's the original video content. I'm not going to try to cheat it and capture more or have it interpolate. That might be just fine. We don't need the audio, but I don't see how to disable that here either. Let's go to the next screen. We're not going to do those. Alright, so let's see if we can simply convert to that, and it will be saved. Now the place where it's going to be saved, I think, is under one of these two options here, the settings for full hardware acceleration. No, not that one. Oh, there it is, under general. I mean, you could have the some other options here. General. Okay, here's where it's going to save it. So I'm going to have it in the daily dose under Media Espresso. Let's just save it there. Okay, that, and convert. Alright, so that conversion now, it's going to go pretty quickly through 2 megabyte of WMV to AVI, and hopefully that will then be able to import into Dogwaffle. Alright, and we're done. So let's now switch over to Dogwaffle. And we're now going to use Project Dogwaffle Howler, and actually I'm not going to use an existing installation. I'm going to install the very latest. I think that was built yesterday or 2-3 days ago. This is still a work in progress. We're probably about 3-4 months from release of version 9, so you might see it appearing as 8.2. It's really going to be 9 at some point. But what you will be able to do with your current version, Howler 8.2, is very similar to what you see here. I just thought I would use this as an opportunity to also see you know, how you can install that. So I'm going to go through the installation steps, and this might still change, of course, over the next couple of months or weeks. When we have the final release, this may be very similar or identical to this in terms of the steps, but there's always a slight chance that the installer itself might change. Over the course of the different generations of Dogwaffle, we've seen a few times that it was good to make some slight changes. For instance, to offer that the program would launch automatically at the end of the installation, which now we can also have it that way elevate the program to the same level as the installer at first, and if that fails, you can always go and set administrator rights initially, but you don't have to do that anymore. So you can launch Dogwaffle, and normally it will just launch fine. If you have another version still running in memory, it might tell you so, and you can go into the task manager to kill that. Lots of little tools to learn as you go through that experience. So here is Howler, PD Howler, and what we'll do is we'll go to the animation menu, and we will load AVI, and so now here we have we need to find our AVI. Let's go find it by, so we can sort it by name. You see we have a first one that we just created in Media Espresso, so that would be here. And I think I kept it in a folder there, Media Espresso. Right. So, I didn't encode it. No, there it is. Yeah, that's the one that was produced by, oh, not by Media Encode, not by, okay, so this is the other one. All right, so let's see if we can import this one. Yep, 213 frames, and we had, let's see, play that. Good. All right, so that one's good. That one's usable, and we will need to crop some, like that initial part at the beginning here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You see the toolbar at the top here. We want to remove that, so let's go and perhaps trim it from here. So we'll set the in point here, the in marker, and that's right there. All right, so we've set the in marker here somewhere. We can see it right there. It is. That's this frame. We can go through other frames, but we can go now also to the end and say, well, maybe we want to keep it all, maybe we want to keep it only a portion of it. So if we have the in marker here at about, what was it, 42 or so, well, let's set it again. Okay, let's set it at 38, frame number 38. Let's go to 138 roughly. So we have just about 100 frames there. So now we have a range of frames selected. Let's go trim to that, right, or cut that out. Let's see, how can we do that? Oh, actually, what we do is we would cut the rest around it. That's what we want to do. So essentially, we need to actually set the first frame as our in marker, and frame number 38 would become our out, or 37 if you don't want to, if we want to eliminate 37. So now we have selected a different range from 1 or from frame 0 to 37 that we can delete. Right, delete that block. We basically identify a block of frames, and those have been eliminated. So now we have only 175 frames left, and what we'll do is we'll remove the remaining ones at the end. And so what we'll do is we'll go to frame 101. There you go. Put that in as our new in marker, and to the last frame as our out marker, and delete that. Delete that block. So now we have just 100 frames. Actually, probably 101, because we go from 0 to 100. Maybe we want to delete one more. Let's use this trick here. Delete the current frame as we are at the last one. Alright, so now we have 100 frames. And certainly that's something I would save. So let's go to the animation and save this as a quick DWA, a Dogwaffle animation format, right? So that will be something that we want to save. So that's 100 frames. What was that? Lightspeed, screensaver. Right. Let's give it some credit for that, and put that in as a DWA. So DWA is a quick format. It's pretty much a memory dump, and doesn't do any compression. It's lossless, and it's a very fast one to re-import. So if for any reason, let's say you were to mess this up and you would close the program, or you would modify it and say, oh no, I need to go back to my video, what you do is you simply go here and open it again, right? Since we saved it as a DWA, one click, boom, look at how quickly it loads that entire 100 frames again. So no waiting there. So what we do now is, let's play that. First of all, let's set the playback rate. Now, initially we recorded that at 15 frames a second. All right, so that's that. Still a little bit of choppiness there, a little bit of stuttering, I call it. And that's where we need to smooth it a little bit. So if we play it at 30 frames a second, it's going to go zip by a little bit faster. But of course, it's not doing anything for making it smoother. We still have a little bit of choppiness there, because as we go from one frame to the other, there's a significant jump on these movements. And what we need to do now is see how can we use the motion prediction module to slow it down and get a nice transition. Let me show you without the motion prediction module first, right? So why would we bother using the motion prediction module? Is it really worth it? Well, let's see this. If we right click here and we do a time stretch, we get to do this the old-fashioned way, which is the normal way. Usually you get some fairly decent results with that. But let me show you what happens when you have high contrast movements. Let's say you do frame blending, right? Because you want to do that. If you say you want twice as many frames, 200 or so, or 300 or whatever, you can apply and multiply here. Let's say we want 300 frames. So now we have 600. That's even more. So when you do that, you'll see. Let's actually go to 1,000. Let's give it roughly 1,000 frames with frame blending. Okay. What happens there is that as the frames are interpolated, the pixels that you see at one place are being faded away and replaced gradually with the pixel of the color of the next incoming pixel from the next frame. And that can create a roping effect, I call it, or sort of a flickering effect. Now, it may be visible, it may not be too visible. It's kind of difficult to predict. Here you see it if you zoom in. Right, you can see how this is sort of doing. Yeah, you can definitely see it here. Some of these, oh yeah. See how it's like coming away, going back in, appearing, disappearing, appearing, disappearing. And if you play this fast, even without playing it fast, you'll see a sort of a swimming effect. There, look at these, the long lines here. Big aliasing happening here. So while we we see that we can quickly do a time stretch with the traditional frame interpolation. It's great, it's fast, it's a no-brainer, but it's also plagued with a little bit of a side effect. Now in this case, we can see that side effect pretty well. It's usually visible more if you have high contrast elements. Right? If you have a black dot that moves on a totally white background, you're going to see a lot of that. If you have a landscape and you're doing a panoramic swipe across that landscape, but everything is kind of a mush of different shades, very similar shades, green to dark green to light green to sky haze to blue to saturated blue. As you look up the horizon or up the sky, you may not notice much of that. However, if you have a portion in your landscape with high contrast, let's say, I know, rocks and sand, bright sand, and then dark rocks, and then some light green or yellowish dry grass, and then dark heavy saturated grass, green trees on light background, high contrast elements, you're going to see much more of that roping effect. I call that a snaily rope or snaily poo rope. You can see that blending right there. Look at this guy. See this big yeah, there's a lot of side effects here from that transitioning, right, from one pixel to the next, one frame to the next. It's fading over 6 or 7 frames because we asked to replace 10 frames. Actually, we asked to replace 100 frames and extrapolate it into 1,000 frames. So it's great when you look at it small, but in reality, even at that point, you can still see some side effect here on some of these elements that are high contrast. So let's see if we can improve that. What we'll do is we'll go, first of all, we'll save this so we can do a side-by-side comparison a little bit later. Let's keep it at 30 frames a second and save that as, that one's called Timestretch. So that one will be here, Timestretch. Save it, and of course when you do that as an AVI, it's going to ask, well, what's the compression codec you want? And for this I'm going to use, well, I could use a lossless, a Lagarith would work, or I could use, let's use XVID, which is kind of a shame because it's adding additional compression lossy. It's not lossless, but I'm gonna have it at highest possible quality, so it may not be affecting our you know, the quality of what we see here. So it's going to go and encode that into XVID, and I think I'll be fairly happy with the quality of that. Encoding now, so I think, and at some point soon we should have that done. Yeah, you can see it's still encoding. I really set it up to a very high resolution, high quality here, so it's going to produce a fairly large file, and it's taking its time also to do the best possible job on that encoding. If your system gets to be a little bit unresponsive at that time, it may be that that encoding took all the cores. You can see here on my 8-core i7. Okay, we're done. It's now dropping back down to reasonable levels, and we can show the video that we just produced, and there we go. Alright, and as expected, we have some side effects here from that original time stretch we did. Alright, so that's something that's difficult to prevent or to avoid, but you can in many cases prevent it or work around it, or at least diminish that effect, sometimes perhaps at the cost at the price of another side effect, but you can reduce that with the motion prediction module. So let's do that in the next segment. And so here we continue the motion prediction module phase. Let's go and load that original file that we had opened, 100 frames, Lightspeed screensaver based, and there we go. And so now this time the trick is to use the motion prediction module and produce about 1,000 frames. That's the one thing, we cannot make it exactly 1,000 frames with the motion prediction module, but you know, that we can make more and perhaps trim it or cut a few. Let's go to the filters menu and select under animated. There will be an option here, motion prediction module. All right, So how does that work? Oh, well, first of all, let me move this a little bit to the side. Let's redo that on the side so we can see everything in and the user interface at the same time. So where is it? There, filter, animated, and motion prediction module. All right, first of all, let's do dry runs. We don't want to do this quite yet. Let's see what happens if I just take a go at it. Now, by default, it's going to do a 3 times screen. So from 100 frames, it's going to go to almost 300. It's not exactly that, 295. This looks fairly decent. I'm not seeing much swimming or roping or other effects. Now, we could go here with, let's do it 10 times. Let's see what that does. 981. That's almost perfect. Okay. Now, one thing you'll notice is that some of the items here might occasionally still have a little bit of roping effect, and that's because when it's moving too fast, it may just decide it's probably best to just traditional time stretch if it's not able to track where the different blocks are. Because remember, what we have is a search distance and a grid spacing. Here's the grid spacing. Here you can see in blue, oh, I hope this will be captured okay. In blue, it will capture, in fact, let me do that again. Let's close and let's zoom in a little bit so we'll see it even better in the screenshot. There, let's keep it like this, and let's go back to filter, animated, motion prediction module. All right, so I was saying that we can set the grid here for fairly large blocks. 12 is the default and works really well for most of the time, but you could make it smaller. And then let's do a try at that. Now let's keep it perhaps back to the 4 or 3 default. Let's keep it 5 and do a go at that. So this is not our final numbers yet, but with that, perhaps you have a better chance of capturing where each of the different parts go. All right, so that's one thing to experiment with. Now, sometimes you might want to play with perhaps some other parameters. If there's a lot of noise, taking 5 samples, doing a stochastic average might help. This one doesn't have a whole lot of noise, so I'm not sure that that's really going to give you a whole lot better results, but it's still something to look at, to consider. However, of course, it takes much more time, at least 5 times. And you have an option for 15 times if you can spare the time. Let's stop that current one. Let's go back to just 1 sample. This time we'll do refinement optimization. So if you go down to 4, it's going to be the lesser quality, but that might be just fine in some cases. So let's see here. Now here you do get a little bit of the side effects. So let's keep it at 1, and then you can go actually to refinement optimize with the, oh, you need the refinement pass, of course. Silly me, that didn't make a difference there. So now we have it, okay. So that could potentially help a little bit, but yeah, you can see some side effects here because that's not what we want here in this case. So perhaps at this level, refinement optimize, skip recalculating vectors. So there could be some benefits there. Probably the thing to do here initially is to say, do not do the refinement pass. So let's do a full animation through that. And you know what, probably 12 default is good. Maybe a larger search distance, that's another one to play with too. Search distance, you can see here with these blue, look in the bottom here, the blue arrows, that sort of indicate how far we want to look. Now, none of these elements are moving that fast, so it probably doesn't pay to go that far. And because there's also some repetitive patterns here it might see, so it might be confused if you look too far. It might think that one block here moved down a much bigger distance, and so it's probably better not to let it look that far and perhaps keep it at bay, as long as there aren't any parts that are moving too fast that it could be missed. So I would probably go with something like this. Alright, and then so the last thing we need to do is perhaps increase it to 10. Do a dry run that way. By the way, if you're curious, you can see the motion, you can use it to introduce motion blur instead. And that would look like this, it's not exactly smoothing the animation, it's just adding a little bit of motion blur. But since there are no very fast motions, it's also very difficult to see the effect of the motion blur in this case. This movement is fairly slow to begin with. But you can see the motion analysis here that will tell you in green and red which way it's heading. Not very easily seen on this short clip. not very fast motion either. It would be much brighter intensity, much brighter reds and greens if it was faster moving. So we'll do this here with the extrapolation mode. And we can also show the motion vectors. That's an interesting one too. That's to show, and those are actually very tiny little vectors, so not a whole lot to see there either. All right, so let's keep it without that and just do our pass and do like that. And we do a full pass, so it calculates it and stores whatever it needs to store and remember, because then when we do the final, we will enable the refinement pass, right? And so that will take a little bit extra time, but it will give you even better quality. And so let's go now, undo the dry run. We're ready to go. We have it at 10, so it will be about 1,000 frames, but we will now also do the refinement pass. Right, so add a pixel for pixel recalculation of first pass, and there we go. So this should give you a much better quality on the interpolation of the tween frames in between. We have 100 frames initially, and we're now getting 10 times as many roughly, and there's just a little bit of touch-up that might be needed. There's also at the borders potentially a zone with a little bit of mush there, but not very noticeable here. Anyway, still keep it in mind that you might need to crop out a little bit on the edge if it moves too fast. This one's moving slow enough that it might not be visible. All right, and so let's I think we're done on this one. Let's go and play it. Let's play it first at 100% at full size. And yeah, we don't really see a whole lot of roping or twinkling or anything like that. Let's have a look at it, closer look. Especially those here, the high contrast ones. Look at how clean that is. So that's really what the motion prediction module is going to hopefully get you, is a cleaner transition on the moving parts, as long as they don't overlap each other or have all sorts of weird topology conditions. As long as they don't move over each other, you should see very little side effects. It's possible still to have some, and sometimes you need to touch it up a little bit. But if in the end, if at the end of the day, if this is what you need, if you need that very high quality smooth motion, this is going to get you there. And so the motion prediction module at work, ladies and gentlemen, that's right here. And let's see, what else do we need? Oh yeah, we need to save this. Let's go and stop the animation and then save this as an AVI, and we'll do that as a comparison. So we had the Timestretch before, and then this one will be with the MPM, motion prediction module. MPM, or motion estimation module. Some companies, some products will call it motion estimation. We'll call it motion prediction in this case. Still at 30 frames a second. Let's save this AVI, and I'm going to use the same codec which was used in the other case, so that'll be XVID, and again still at the very highest quality. So this too will take a little while, and we'll get back and do a final side-by-side comparison as I'm assembling everything. Alright, so here we go, final comparison side by side. On the left side you see the animation with just the regular time stretch and frame interpolation, and keep an eye on this one here in the middle, high contrast, or these guys over here on the left, the big ones, and compare that to the ones here on the right side. So on the right side you see the result with motion prediction module. And maybe we can zoom in on these a little bit. Let's see, I don't know if, yeah, this is airfront view. Oh no, it's not going to resize it on the fly. It's playing it at its current size, which is good, because you do want to not introduce additional distortions when you're doing a pixel for pixel comparison. But let's go and zoom in here at my video editing level from Cyberlink and Power Director, and I can take those two and do a comparison side by side, zoom in on one, zoom in on the other. So let's go again, play that, and let's see if we can play it at the same time roughly. So yeah, look at this one here at the top, look at the big ones over here that are overlapping, and compare them side by side and tell me which one you like better. This down, so oh, how come it's not the same size? That's a bit odd. Alright, so that does that. Thanks for watching and enjoy.